That Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 558 of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Paul Lee Cooley, and joining me as always, nearly always, well, most of the time I wish he wouldn't, Terry Mixon. How the hell are you?
I was doing fine until you just crushed my ego.
You have an ego?
Apparently.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I've never seen such a thing. Yeah, okay, fine. So what the hell have you been up to?
I've been going through hell week. The wife's been out of town. I've been sleeping well, never do when she's gone. So my writing has suffered. I've still managed to get minimal amounts every day, but nope, not happy with that. I'll have to do better this week.
You just haven't been able to find your mojo?
Yeah. Throws me off. My wife is so much my partner that I don't like being alone.
Ooh, Stella needs to get her groove back. I can't believe I did that. All right, that was bad. Okay.
So if we were Thelma and Louise, which one would you be?
Oh, God. The car? Oh, wait. That didn't sound right. Never mind. Yeah, because I want two ladies riding me. Yeah, I knew that's where that went. I said...
Well... That was totally not where I was going with that, and I didn't interpret your answer as that.
No, you interpreted it as going off the cliff. That's what you interpreted it as.
Yeah, now I've got you in a threesome with two suicidal women, apparently.
That's about what it would take.
Thanks for taking us there, buddy.
Anytime. I'm so glad I could help. I hope Veronica just spilled coffee everywhere. Okay, so... You've been slacking, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, I'd say that. I had such high hopes for this month that are not going to happen. But it just means I have, the chance to do better next month.
Yeah, I had high hopes too. Just as I thought I was digging out, I got emergency work to do for one client. And then for certain reasons, I have to get back on the robot immediately because our next demo got shortened by 3 weeks.
I'm going to tell you that right after you make a Thelma and Louise threesome joke, you probably should not get back on the robot.
Well, thanks for that. Anyway, so yesterday I suspended my Patreon. My personal Patreon for the time being because I don't have time to create content. I can either write with the spare moments I have, or I can work on recording. I'd rather write. So, and I don't really have a whole lot of spare time. Today I escaped code for an hour and went to a coffee shop and managed to get almost 1,000 words. So I was happy with that. But those moments are going to be few and far between for the next week or so, at the very least. Probably the next month and a half to 2 months. So I just kind of looking at reality in the face going, well, yeah, we need to put this on the kibosh because it just isn't cool to charge people when they're not going to get anything new. So we're suspending that for right now. Hopefully I'll be back in November, and hopefully November I'll have Trident Part 1 ready for the patrons anyway. We'll see. There's some changes probably coming to things because there's some decisions that really have to be made very, very shortly, depending on what happens in the next 2 months. So I'll just have to see where things are, which always sounds ominous and is ominous to think about because my brain, being the squirrel that it is constantly rolling around trying to figure out if this happens, what's next after that, what's next, and it all ends in ruin. So, because that's the way my mind works, none of it ends up on being on my side. It all turns into disasters. I don't know why that is.
Personality quirk?
Yeah, no, something else. Anyway. Regardless, I was really happy to get back to writing. I slipped right into the story, didn't have any problems, just immediately wrote the next sentence. And it worked. And it was fun. And I had a good time, and I was cackling madly to myself as I was finishing it up, and then I got interrupted because I had to stop writing and eat lunch. So that was kind of a nice thing, and I've forgotten what that's like. So it was kind of nice to jump in there, especially when been doing nothing but code. So that's how my week has gone. Besides the fact that it took me a while to get the last episode out, we had a little tech issue, so that's sorted now. But sorry things were late. And also tough shit. I was busy. So, I have a question, Terry.
I have an answer.
I doubt it.
Okay.
What are the universal squirrels?
No one knows.
I think we do, because we're about to talk about it.
All right, then.
Hey, here we go. Hang on to your nuts. I know basically all this is going to come back into the writing for techno thrillers that are set, here and now, kind of deal like the Black near future. But I was reading that book you sent me. Thank you. I was reading that and listening to his pontifications.
I've totally forgotten what book I sent you.
The futurist, the physics student.
Oh, yeah. Michio Kaku.
Thank you, Michio Kaku.
Physics of the Impossible, I think it was.
Something like that.
Something like that.
I can't remember the name of it. I didn't look at the name so much as start reading the text.
Well, he's a futurist, so he's supposed to invoke, thoughts of in your head when you read him.
Yeah, but I realize we do that a lot too, and because we'll sit there and read science articles and everything else and start kind of determining things, ask a few people we know who are experts and ask them questions, and then kind of go back, and that gives us reason to go back there again. It's how you base some of this stuff in reality, so to speak. So I don't think you have to be a scientist to write about it. But
it helps to be a theoretical physicist like him.
Yeah, it helps to be a theoretical physicist. But he hasn't written any science fiction yet, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I don't know if he has.
So, I'll keep my storytelling out of his physics if he keeps his physics out of my storytelling. Anyway, that it just kind of I felt like he's holding up a mirror to a lot of us. It is an inverse relationship between him and what we do necessarily with speculative fiction. So it's just the mirror image, I guess.
Each one of us, when we're writing, and we may have started wandering on a topic, so maybe we should start the show and say we've started in on a topic here because we're going to keep talking about this.
How the hell does this? Oh yeah, jet lag. Never mind. Go.
Basically, what he's doing is projecting what we have today and trying to guess what we'll have in 100 years.
Yeah,
he's taking all the steps that we've taken to get to this place. And says, what is going to change? What is the trends that's coming along? Where is science? Where is society going to go to be it in 100 years? What's it going to look like? Yeah. And he's trying to look at the big picture by looking at a lot of small things and see where it goes from there. And virtually everybody that does that, well, they're wrong when they get there. But it's fun watching them try. Flying cars, we don't have those yet.
No, we don't.
That's the way it works. You envision a future, whether it be a utopia, a dystopia, or something in between, and then you try to figure out the steps that are going to be there to take you to that one place. And science and humanity will do everything but what you think they're going to do before you even get the first year out. Sure. That's just the way it works.
But from a storytelling point of view, I follow the same process, but I'm not forecasting our future. I'm forecasting the future of whatever it is I'm working with. So I think, okay, we're here at this point. How the hell did we get here? And in my head, I kind of map out the things that would need to happen in my universe to push them to do what they did to get to where we are now. And it explains if I do it right, if I make it work, then it basically explains everything I want to explain for now with Derelict. It gets it all out there and will completely kickstart Soul and Beyond, the rest of the series, which I won't be able to work on for years, or sell for years, I should say.
Well, by the time you're finished with this project, the time will be almost here.
No shit. Anyway, I take those steps to figure out how I got to where I am, or how I got to where these people are. I didn't know that information up front when I wrote it. I'm kind of figuring this shit out after I've decided to plant my flag. That's a bad way to do this, but it's the way it happened, so I'm not even going to say a goddamn word. Bottom line is the flag has been planted, and now I need to go back and see the books I need to write to have it from start to end, so you see the entire arc of how we got to that point. But I know that now, which allows me to kind of go backwards and use some of those points into the end of Derelict.
That works.
Yeah.
I know that the work that I'm currently writing now, I'm more than halfway done with and I introduced a convention at the beginning of the book because I had to deal with circumstances as they were. And I'm halfway through the book and I go, oh, I could have done this one thing back at the very beginning of this, and I wouldn't have to do all this kludgy stuff. So I've made a note to myself, during post, fix this.
Yeah, pretty much. Well,
and that happens a lot with technical things too. You put your markers down and say, I need this situation to develop. You've researched enough of the science to where you think you've got it there, and maybe you'll find out that you were totally and utterly wrong when you get to the end of your book and go, gosh, that's not even theoretically possible now that, by the time I finish writing this book, science has disproven it. Let's go back in time a little bit to the Venus is a jungle science fiction. People living in the canals of Mars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those things that they just didn't know. They made their wild guesses about what they thought it could be and said, this would make a fabulous story. We're going to run with these things. And lo and behold, it turns out that it is not true. None of it is true. It's completely impossible. And nobody cares because it's fun. It's a story.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons when you're writing, when I read sci-fi, when I watch sci-fi, and they give some date, my immediate response was, that was a bad idea. Because making something timeless is capturing it in a time of its own. I don't think think about Alien, think about Event Horizon, how even back then, trying to get to that point where we were, it was like trying to move it just 100, 150, it just didn't make any goddamn sense. So that tells me it's alternate reality from my point of view. But isn't all sci-fi? Never mind. We'll take that up some other time. Bottom line is, if you put the dates on it, it can make things a little, I don't know, disjointed. Because I immediately read that and I go, wow, how did we get there from here? And we don't know. Or something is really wiggy, like there's no way we're going to have that in 20 years. It's just not going to happen. And so it always breaks the verisimilitude of the universe and the text for me. So I try not to give dates. I do give dates in Derelict in a roundabout fashion, and I don't use BC or BCE or CE. I use SE. So I haven't made it clear when that break with CE went into the Soul era. So I haven't made that clear, and I don't intend to either. For the same reason.
It's the same sort of thing that I've done with the Empire series. The only hard and fast dates they know are from the fall of the Terran Empire. I don't say how long the Terran Empire existed. I don't say how long it took to get from where we are here to the height of the Empire. It could be any amount of time at all.
Because it's not relevant.
It's not.
Unless you're going to bring up how quickly things changed, or there's a reason why you have to be accurate or precise, depending on which one you want to choose, in how the dates are structured. Unless there's a reason for that, for the reader to know it, there's no reason for them to know it. You can know it.
I'm not even hard and fast at how long it takes to get from one place to another.
No, you are not. You just kind of fall over that. There's a reason I had to include that shit in Derelict, because I needed to have a time scale proper for the end, because the end of the book is going to be nuts.
People said, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and create this map of the universe of what you do?" Not a chance. No way. Not a chance.
That is way too much goddamn work. I ran into somebody at Balticon who was talking about they haven't written a word of the story because they're still mapping the world. And I was like, how long have you been doing that? Oh, 6 years.
Yeah. There's a point where you let your world creation get in the way of your writing. I follow the other side of that. I'll do my writing, and that creates the world.
Yeah, that's kind of how I work as well. But, it's kind of like, all right, fine. So you build the world. If that's what makes you happy, go build the damn world. Just go do it. I do it in my imagination all the time. But it also ends up back in my fiction. So if I didn't write it, though, it wouldn't become alive. It's just, it's skeletal. It's just like history. If you looked at history in a brief synopsis, it just has almost no meaning. It's just bullet points on a page with dates. That's all it becomes. So I try and stay away from that, as I know you do too.
Yeah.
Is there anything, if you had to go back and do it over again, is there anything you would change with Empire of Bones? The universe, the world building part of it. Is there anything you would change?
Overall, no. Are there glitches that I've introduced, that I've forgotten things as I went along? Yes, there are. But I don't think I would change the overall course of what I'm doing. I might change how a couple of the books were structured, but not the events in them.
Okay. That makes sense. Excuse me. When you say structure...
Sometimes I've written with too many points of view characters, and that's been a distraction for me. When I was writing Race to Terra, I did not... It became a much larger world than I could fit into one novel. That was lack of planning on my part as a pantser. So I might refine how I was writing that story to get to a shorter goal rather than end on a cliffhanger and that. So there's a couple of process things that I would change, but the world itself, no. I'm happy with all the things that I've introduced, all the chaotic things that I've introduced, all the pieces parts that I've left hanging. A good chunk of those are going to come in useful in the next year, I think.
If I could change anything, it would only be the order for books that don't exist yet. So
if they don't exist yet, you can just shuffle those little bitches right around.
And that's what will happen when I get my rights back. Guaranteed. So I'm excited actually to keep writing on this stuff, and I won't have pressure to do anything else if I don't want to do it, except to finish up Derelict in the Black, and that's it for the time being. But I want to go back and I want to set some of these things up. And if I do it right, I'll have enough pieces, because 2 books finally fleshed themselves out for me, and I realized what their order needed to be and which characters I needed in them, so that when we read Shipyards, some of the things I say in there will call back to that. So I had that evil idea, and I was like, oh, I really want to write these 2 books before we go to Shipyards. I really want to do it. But yeah, got to do Shipyards first. So I guess when I get my rights back, I'll be putting out a shit ton of stuff that's going to be hiding, except for maybe via Patreon or something like that. Or, when things change, whatever. whenever that is. Whenever that is. We'll see.
Whatever will be, will be.
Yeah, this is going to be a strange end of year for me. We'll see how all that works. I think that's only the way I would change that. But to be honest, I wouldn't have ever come up with this stuff if I hadn't started on Derelict and had that go sideways on me. So,
as you write along and you get further into your story, it opens up the horizons of what's possible from there. When you start writing a novel, you have a fairly limited idea of where you're going to go, what the universe can deliver. Unless, of course, you spend 6 years working on the background of your setting.
World building, yeah.
But for most of us, like when I started writing Empire of Bones, I had a very vague idea of what the general shapes of the universe were going to be. And as I've written 10 and a half books now, there's a lot more people populating that. There's a lot more places, a lot more potential of things to happen. And the original bad guys in book 1, they've been set aside to a good chunk. Now they're fighting a different set of people. There were people behind the original people. And guess what? They're going to be people behind the ones that they're facing now. Nothing is ever easy.
The people behind the people that are also behind the people?
That's the ones.
Yeah, I love those people. The real enemy is revealed. No, just another part of it. I love that shit. Doesn't that make you want to go back and kind of figure out where those people came from? Doesn't it want to make you go back and deal with how those things came to be?
I'm going to. That's why I'm going to write Imperial Marines, the series.
Finally, you've decided you're going to do it.
I already did decide it. When I finish this Empire book, the very next book up on my schedule. Well, I say that.
See, that's what I was saying.
No, hang on. There's a reason. I'm going to write a novella that I can use as a reader magnet first, and then I'm going to write Imperial Marine. Because I need to have something for my mailing list. I know that I need it, so it comes first, but it's not going to be very big. And then I start Imperial Marines. So
okay.
It's the next full-blown novel that I've got on my plate, is writing that book to start that series off.
Okay, cool.
It's been only 3 years since I said, I need to do this. Well, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I know how that is. I know exactly how that is. And wow, we were totally screwed.
You broke up a bit there. I couldn't actually understand you.
I said, wow, we're totally screwed.
Yeah, there were some words in the middle of that. I could see your lips moving, but I don't know what they were.
That's more or less what I said, is we're totally screwed.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with that.
Because there's so much of that.
There's an element of chaos to my writing and world creation, because I'll write and I'll do things that are introduced in a particular novel. So there'll be characters and plot threads that are introduced, many of which will be left either unresolved or just resolving themselves off screen when I'm done with that novel. And I've already had some conversations with someone that is looking at potentially writing inside the universe with me. And if the conversations go the way that I hope they do, which there's no guarantee, this conversation hasn't happened yet, a good chunk of the plots and characters that I've created, that I've set aside, would make a very good starting point for another series written inside the universe.
Well, isn't that precious?
It was all accidental, too.
Well, those are the best kind, though. Those are the best kind of accidents.
I've kind of orphaned, an entire ship full of people doing interesting things with other interesting people. And I think that they would make a great starting point for a series of some kind.
And we sit here and think...
The benefit of this, though, is the things they're doing would complement the storylines that I'm writing, but they wouldn't directly impact them.
Gotcha. It's funny how it just makes you, instead of chasing squirrels in the story, you start looking at chasing the squirrels of the world. of the universe, the other things you want to talk about because you're interested in how they happened. Because maybe it's something to explain this other idea you had that you probed a little bit and it sounded really good, but it was fait accompli. It was already done. And then you're like, how did that happen? How did we get there? That sounds like a really cool story. So you got two choices. You can either go ahead and put it in your universe or write as a standalone outside of your universe. And
another potentiality with this is if the other person writes the story the way that they want to, they could come barreling back through going across my own plot. And I could be like, and the golfer lines up. And suddenly a linebacker comes through and knocks the golfer completely off of his feet because he didn't see him coming.
Yeah. See, here's the problem you have, and here's a problem I have. We do well and we do not do well with structure. It's a skeletal framework that we're constantly kind of tweaking with, and sometimes we can see the bones creaking a little bit, so we have to put some muscle and flesh here and there. But we don't have a model. I mean, the goddamn thing looks like Tinker Toys put together. It's not really a body yet. And it's going to take a long time for it to get there because we've created such a massive monster. And there's a lot of authors that have created these monsters, like the Commonwealth Saga. Peter F. Hamilton's stuff is riddled with it. Where you just sit there and go, how the hell did that happen? Because they reference things that will never get explored or explained. And me as the reader, I'm like, God damn it, I want to write a book about that. Well, guess I'll have to come up with one myself that's similar.
It's like writing thrillers on Earth. You know, if you're writing two different sets of people writing in the same thriller universe, you could be like doing your whatever and the thing there. What is that bright light over there? Is that a nuclear explosion in Paris? What the hell is that?
And we don't know.
And you don't know.
We just get moved along, nothing to see here, nothing to see here.
I disagree with the nothing to see here. If this other person that I'm talking about writes something that comes barreling back through and across the main plot line, I'd have to deal with the consequences of it.
Yes.
And I think that would be fun. It might be a little chaotic, but it would be fun trying to figure out how I could make that happen.
I would start with the intersection. What is it?
But what if it comes in the middle of a novel?
That's what I'm saying.
It's not going to be at the beginning of.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't. That part doesn't matter. If you already know these two things are going to hit and you have an idea how it happened, start with that. That's what I would write. Is that scene or two scenes of that, and then work backwards how you got to where you're going to go. That's what I would do if you wanted to make that book work. And it would be a complete and total clusterfuck. The two storylines have absolutely nothing to do with one another until they maybe start to get closer, and you're starting to get an idea something might happen here, and then kaboom, they go right past one another, and you're back out. But they both affect the other.
There was a scene in one of the Mission Impossible movies, a couple of movies back, that Tom Cruise has been captured by the bad guys and he's being tortured and taunted. And suddenly one of the torturers just starts attacking the other torturers and cuts him loose. And in the fight, he's like leaning going, do we know one another?
Yeah, and then you're wondering how that person got in there.
And that's actually a plot line that goes through there. He doesn't really get satisfactory answers to this. So he doesn't know who this person really is or what their agenda is.
Yeah.
But obviously they're working for some other organization that's not the bad guys, whoever they are.
Or the bad guys they've been fighting anyway. It could be a different it could be a different group of bad guys who are just basically my enemy is my friend for this one instant.
It could have very well been, but it was fun watching the movie going, all right, where are we going from here?
These are the squirrels that can really screw you over because you can be in the middle of a work and say, how did that happen? And then you end up getting squirreled in there. You end up getting squirreled somewhere else.
Have you ever written squirrels like that into your own work and had to say, now, wait a minute, I'm going to have to go back like 4 or 5 chapters or more because, this is just too unbelievable how I got here. I've got to make this a bit smoother, a little bit more structured. This is just not going to work.
Hell yeah, I've had to go. Usually it's because all I have to do is mention one detail that somebody noticed, and then later I if I find out, hey, I need this, I can go back and just put it in there. And if it's not too big, it's actually kind of easy to sneak in. If you just need a little bit of setup, it's not too bad, and then you can deal with the consequence later on. The trick is to make people see it without making them linger over it. I think putting the gun in the nightstand is a little too
straightforward,
too extreme, too easy, too blunt. Maybe
and it's the mantle place.
Whatever, it doesn't freaking matter. Whatever.
Get your tropes right.
The rule is, if you put the gun up there, it's got to go off in the second act.
It's got to be used. Doesn't have to go off, but you got to use it. Got to brandish it at least.
Brandish it. Okay, fine. Because otherwise, you've set up an expectation that is not met. And that was.
Or if you're not going to meet that expectation, there has to be a big reason why. That's a part of the story.
Right.
Why it doesn't happen.
Why. So I like to take that, but not make it a gun. I make it something else. It's there, and you may not even realize why it's there, but it is there. Maybe the character will comment on it, and maybe it's something a little odd that they noticed, but you don't draw a whole bunch of attention to it, and then you see why later on.
There's a story about, I don't know whether it's true or not, about William Shatner when he was doing live television, that he was a bad guy in some live television production, and they were supposed to have a gun and a paper bag on the mantelpiece. So he goes up to the mantelpiece, picks up the bag, opens it up, and finds someone's sandwich inside the bag. He closes the bag, sets it back down, and walks over and strangles the person he is supposed to kill.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. Which I'm sure shocked the shit out of everybody on production. They're like, what the hell is he?
What is he doing? What is this?
The sandwich. I still wonder if that was a mistake or somebody just loathed him that much to do that.
It's probably about somewhere in the middle. It could have gone either way. And the way some of these groups prank each other.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I could totally see that being intentional.
Yeah, and then it'd be even funnier if he knew who did it, and that was the person he went after to strangle.
That son of a bitch.
I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. I like that one better. Maybe he goes and strangles the wrong person because that's the person that pranked him. Oh, man. It's just sprinkling those little pieces in there can really set you up for some of these other things. But when I get to some of these other things I want to have go off, I go, shit, now I've got to go back and drop that landmine so I can walk over it later and not have it look like, what the hell, how the hell did that get there? It's just, I don't want to have those moments. I don't want to have those moments where it's like, well, God just decided we need this, mention it in a paragraph before it happens.
Yeah, that's not usually that good. I'll make notes to myself. And like I said, when I go back through the book, when I'm done, I'll weave in the parts that I need to have woven in.
Yeah. It's I don't worry about it too much because I'll deal with it when we get there. There's no reason to completely strangle myself trying to figure out, how is that going to happen? I don't know. I won't know until I get there.
There's been a few occasions where I've went back and rewritten something from the start to the finish, and I've inadvertently left little bits and pieces of the original plot in there that have turned up later.
Now, this is funny because I just remember Veronica Giguere saying something about won't pants, don't pants, no pants, whatever, because of Secret World Chronicles and their massive plot that is apparently very... well, they have a lot of continuity. Therefore, you can't stray. We were making up the continuity as we go along. So there.
After as many books as we've written in the various series, the readers by now will know that there's a little bit of fluidity to our continuity.
Now, I am not that bad. I am not that
Oh, that's what you... How many times have you killed the same person twice? Once?
No. Ignore that part. I'm talking about world continuity.
Oh, you mean like inadvertently renaming a planet?
Yes.
Inadvertently renaming a starship?
Yes. You have many
Forgetting
more of
that
those
you've
than
given somebody a promotion, inadvertently given someone a promotion that they didn't actually have. Oh, I've never done any of those things. No, hasn't happened. Oh, yes, it has. All of those things have happened. And some of them, about half of them, I found out when going through it and making notes for various things. The readers didn't tell me about. So nobody, either they didn't notice it or they just went, huh, okay.
Maybe it's all of the above, man. Maybe it's all of the above. I don't know. It just all sounds suspicious to me. I do my best to match all that up and explain things. And I just do not want somebody to feel like I pulled something out of my ass. I have to go back and kind of lay some minds for it before we get
You're one of those science people. You want to have your science back up all the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, I do actually. But it's not so much the science. It's, setting something up and asking a question and never answering it. Either the question gets asked and then they get moved over to something else, and then you can answer that question later in a really big way. But you ask the question at the very beginning: where is so and so? What happened here? And then when you finally figure it out, or that somebody says, "Oh, that's why." And if you do it right, they don't have to say that's why. It just happens.
I could think of a good example of where I've taken something I've done and turned it into something like that. Part of one of the story elements that I've had in mind is space travel is through wormholes. Basically, you'll go through a wormhole called a flip and get to another star system. So there's these choke points in travel and fighting. And one of the things that my characters have found out is the other side likes putting a lot of their forces on the far side of these flip points. So they're going through them blind and running into the enemy on the other side. And the characters are asking themselves, why don't they have ships on this side? Wouldn't it make more sense to be here where you can see us coming, where you can actually defend this flip point from being taken over, rather than letting a force through and then having to fight them? And so after the first time I did it that way, because the plot said, I'm doing it this way, that's the way I pantsed it, I said, why? Why would that be? And I've woven that into it. They don't have the answer yet, but I've woven the answer of why that's being done into the bad guys. They just have to figure it out.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be a lot of fun. I just love the playing. I think I forgot how to do that for a while.
Having fun is very important.
I think I forgot how to do that for a while, and now that I don't have as much time, I have to go back and start it over again. And I plunged into something I'd been afraid to write for quite a while, and I got probably half of it done while I was in Germany. And it's probably shit, and I'll have to go back and fix it. But I'm having fun with it. It's one of those things I just see it in my head, and hopefully I'm capturing the words and the way it happens correctly. Hopefully the readers will like it, but fuck it, it's the way it happened. It's got to get done that way. Why is Minnie in the picture again?
Because she wants love, and she's purring real bad.
We need to put her on payroll. She's the only reason people tune in. To find out whether or not, or at what time period, what time code will Minnie make her first appearance. See, that's what it is. She doesn't want you to let her go, man.
Yeah, maybe not, but that's what happens.
Maybe not. My eyes are tired.
My eyes are tired too. I think we need to go ahead and call it a little early on this one because we're both whooped.
Yeah, I'm extremely jet lagged, and it's the usual. Well, if you would like to give us feedback on this very, very somber, sleepy show, you can send us an email at show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. You can join us on Facebook at the Listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group, where all the insanity happens. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast if you want to see our ugly mugs. And if you'd like to support us, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to all sorts of crazy exclusive things. Mainly unexpurgated shows and live shows, which are also unexpurgated because, well, they're live. And
we need to do another one of those soon.
Yeah, we have to do that very soon, along with all the other goddamn things I have to do. And at the $10 level, you get your name read. And our $10 patrons are Andrew Smallwood, JD Barker, Aaron Meeser, Jesse Elefino Orcutt, Veronica Jaguar, Can't Pants, Won't Pants, Outlines of Cozy, Kelson, Isabel, I forgot to change this for way too long. Oops, Cushy. I've been leaving that out. Now we're back to it. Rick, stringing these glyphs is hard. Shaw. Yeah, man, but you're doing it again. Lisa Slack, Nathan Cosby, Cheryl Winters, Tracy Bodine, Devin Lee, Drew, Angry Fiesta, Rodan Bernardi. I want to see if a Fiesta Transformer. I want to see this now. Make this happen, Internet. Make this happen. A Ford Fiesta Transformer. I want to see this. Chris Winder, Andre Conde Moraes, and J.R. Handley.
Thanks for your support, folks.
Yes, thank you for your support. So you just paid for a $100 piece of software so you could have this episode.
I can't wait till next week to find out what we need then.
Yeah, well, hopefully this is good enough. For the time being, anyway. With that, we are out of here. I hope you have a tech support free week, guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.